expect this kind of match against Pumas in Argentina today?
Yeah, we expected a physical match. We expected a tough game. Well done to Argentina. They played a fantastic game. And I think, you know, we made a lot of errors. Couldn't build the phases, especially the first half. Played against ourselves and cost us on the day.
Did Pumas deserve this victory?
Yeah, they were very good on the day, deservingly winning. We need to go back and have a hard look at ourselves. We need to start finding our rhythm and start playing towards what we want to be and the team we want to be.
Now you are going to think about what's coming up next.
Yeah, you know, we have to first have a hard look at ourselves in this game, see where it went wrong exactly, and you know, a lot to work on and a lot to fix. So we'll spend a week or so figuring out and you know, dealing with the things that we did wrong. And then after that, we know we need to keep our heads up high and look forward.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. It's a disappointment for the Springboks from Salta, and 2 points in it in the end. The Boks could have snuck a victory right at the death, but it probably would have been an unfair result. You'd have to say that it was the Argentines that played most of the enterprising rugby. A couple of opportunities for more tries, particularly in that first half, that went to begging. They suffered a ton of injuries and some pretty crucial ones as well. The Springboks leaving a lot of points out on the park. Very tough to find positives in that match, Victor. No, but no.
Yes, it's very tough looking at that. Again, we almost came back, almost turned it around, and then we would have said, listen, great character. Unfortunately, not tonight. There's a few things we have to look at. For me, with the Springboks, if anyone plays against the Springbok, what's the one thing no one wants to face? It's the driving maul. From a line-out, going to a driving maul. You didn't do one driving maul tonight. So there's a few things that I just don't understand at the moment, to be honest.
Pride, passion, do you think that's gone missing?
Well, they came back. They tried and they gave everything, but too many mistakes. And again, I say, I don't know if we've got an identity. I don't know if we know how we want to play.
Yeah, I think, I suppose the selection of Morne may be indication that we are caught between two worlds, Nick, and I guess the death of brave decisions.
Yeah, we shouldn't be surprised. I mean, you know, what we've been served up so far this year, I said before the game, I was very nervous about this game. You know, you can't carry on being passionate about the Springboks and saying it's because they put a Springbok jersey over their shoulder that we're going to go out and beat Argentina away. It's just not happening anymore. We've lost to Japan, we've lost to Wales away, we've lost to Argentina at home. Nice. We very nearly lost. We lost to Ireland. Now we've lost for the first time to Argentina away. We're not a very good team at the moment, quite frankly. And if you consider that in this game, in the last 20 minutes, the Argentine side lost Sanchez, their number 10 and goal kicker. They lost Hernandez, who was their then general. And their captain went off after 60 minutes, Creevy. So it was a leaderless team, really, at the end. And they still managed to hold on. And this is what worries me a little bit about the Springbok side. It doesn't look as though it has a strong leadership. I mean, I know we're trying to get positives out of the fact that we've won 3 games coming from behind. Against Ireland twice. Against Ellis Park, we had to play brilliantly in the last 15 minutes there to win that game. In the final 5 minutes, we were defending for our lives against Ireland in the 3rd test. Against Argentina last week, we were down after 70 minutes. And in this game, finally, our luck ran out. You know, so we're now playing against Australia away and New Zealand away. You know, there's going to be some very tough decisions that Alistair's going to have to make in terms of the type of style of game he has, because Yankees is not the same as Morne Steyn, absolutely not. So you're not substituting one with the other. And from a form point of view, he must start looking at picking form players.
Yeah, he's caught between a rock and a hard place, I suppose, because we constantly speak about the fact that the Boks always feel the need under pressure now to revert to type, to go back to traditional game or what we've always known them to excel at. And maybe the times of physical dominance have passed. Do we go back to what has worked for us in the past? Or do you just throw caution to the wind and say, here we go, cards open, let's try and progress the game and play a different style?
Yeah, but if we look at tonight, and on a number of occasions we actually played half decent rugby. You know, we kept the ball alive. We scored a very, very good try because of we decided to pass. But then 99% we feel we have to take on the opposition, and that's by doing that we create or we're not creating opportunities to put the next player that should be in a better position with the ball in hand. We're not doing that. Then at the end we said, okay, we're bringing Mornestein on for Elton Yang. Then it's a different ballgame, and we've seen it. Instead of, there's no, I want to say, going forward. That's fine. But then if you want to play the kicking game, then play a decent kicking game. Then really put Argentina inside the 22 and keep them there.
And then you've got to do the driving mauls, and then you've got to
that's what Victor said. And then we don't do that. And then we get... And let's be honest, yes, they had 2 opportunities where they missed 2 tries. But I don't care what they do. It's what we do. And we left 14 points on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Now, suddenly, at one stage, it could have been 40. Yes, we can always say it could have and it should have, and it wasn't. But still, if you look at the quality of kickers we're supposed to have in the side, it shouldn't be, 14 points left out on the field. And that's what we also spoke about last week. If we scored the tries we were supposed to score last week, we're talking 14, 15 points difference. Then it's a different ballgame. But by missing... I want to say easy penalties, missing a drop that should have been easy 3 points. We're putting the pressure on ourselves, and then at the end, we look bad. That's the sad part. And there's no excuses for how we play tonight. Really, there's no excuses.
I think you're still being a bit conservative. It was 14 points via the boot, John. There was a definite try opportunity right when Damien looked like he was going to get over, or at least get very close, and he forced the pass. That's 21 points, potentially, that went to begging. Yes, we would have been talking about a different result. Would we have been happy, though, if the Springboks had that extra 21 points? Would we have said satisfactory performance? Would we change our outlook and not be so glam in studio?
Yeah, well, I think we need to be realistic about it in that Argentina was very dominant in that first half, and they probably left a similar amount of points out there as well. So if you look at the game holistically, I think probably Argentina was the better team. So from a South African point of view, from a Springbok point of view, I think the question is, well, where to from here? What do we do? Are there a number of players that's not in the side at the moment that should be there and can make a considerable difference? Or is it our game plan and we're just still trying to find our feet there? I think that needs to be the questions now, and we need to find those answers quite quickly, because we've already lost too many now this year.
Yeah, we've already lost too many games this year. Ashwin, the pressure mounts. Springbok fans want us to win every single game that the Boks play, but it hasn't been that way. And Nick speaks about some of the lowlights over the last couple of seasons, including now 2 losses against Argentina home and away for the first time. So historic results, but unfortunately all for the wrong reasons.
Yes, indeed, Kola, but please allow me and just to say well done to Argentina. I think one have to compliment this team for how they've been able to develop as a team over the past couple of years, and the type of performances that they've been putting in 2 weeks now that we've seen them. There's a bunch of players that came from Super Rugby. The entire squad pretty much came from Super Rugby, where they were poor in their performance, came into an Argentine setup, and all of a sudden you see them playing. There's a cohesiveness in their tech. They understand the defensive structure. They are very competitive when it comes to ruck time. And I think that was a difference between the 2 teams today, because South Africa, we were hesitant in defense. We find that as soon as the ball goes behind the player in front, we were hesitant. I, in fact, mentioned in the build-up that, when they get the ball out wide, we look vulnerable. And that was last week, and today it was exactly the same. There was a kicking contest for about 20 minutes or so. When Argentina started to play, and they started playing behind the runners, all of a sudden our defense, there was gaping holes in our defense. That's the one thing. And I think also the other thing, when we look from a South African perspective, there's still this notion that we have to take the ball to ground and set up phases. And this thing, I think, has become a myth now of we have to earn the right to go wide. We don't need to. Argentina, we kick the ball on them. They play 10 phases up until our try line, and then a penalty comes our way. So why do we have to kick the ball? And in fact, the substitution, Mornestein versus Elton Yankees. Mornestein comes on. What do we do then? We get the ball, they kick on us in our 22. First decision is to kick the ball back to them. This is the same team that have just ran 50 meters from their own 22 in order to get to our 22. And I think that's the fundamental shift that we have to make, is to understand. There was an instance where Brian Abana scored the try. What did we do? We kept the ball. We looked at the clip a clip in the build-up, and we said Ibn Etzebeth, he should have passed the ball, he should have run straight, should have passed the ball. The supporting players were 5 meters behind him. If they had been on his shoulder, as to what has happened in the try that Brian Abana scored, there was Francois Lowe as well as Ibn Etzebeth. They were able to get their hands free, pass the ball to the supporting player that went forward and continued. That continuity allowed us to get behind the Argentine defensive line and put them under pressure.
You know, Ashton, if I can come in here, you know, I think that the way the Lions have played this season in Super Rugby has been outstanding. It's been a side that's developed over 3 years, and they have a coaching system, the same coaches, the same group of players, and they really understand how the systems work and how each other plays. And what it appears to be, that the Springbok coaching staff are caught between the pressure to play like the Lions and the pressure to play to old Springbok strengths, which was a driving line out, a strong set piece, a good defence, territorial, and a goal kicker like Morné Steyn. And to have Morné Steyn on the bench, in a funny sense, it puts more pressure on Yankees, because he knows if I don't kick everyone penalty over, you know, they're going to bring on Morné Steyn for his penalty kicks. And that means that my attacking, you know, it's probably going to affect his attacking game as well. So a decision has to be made very, very quickly as to whether we play the Morné Steyn type of game or whether we play the Lions type of game. And if we play the Lions type of game, then we've got to bite the bullet and continue doing it.
But Nick, on that, I think also perhaps that's where the public narrative have to change, because, you know, the entire week, past 2 weeks, we've talked about Elton Jantjies, his form. Is he the best number 10 in the country? At this point, I think in terms of his ability to attack, to understand space and time, to put his players into space, to go and penetrate the defensive line, I think he's unmatched at this stage in terms of the fly-ups that's available.
Playing the way the Lions played.
But not necessarily, because if you look at Argentina today, how many times have we seen the Argentine team maul from a line-out? How many mauls did they have?
Very few.
There was basically none. There was front ball towards the end, line-out, front ball. They sift the ball all the way to the wider channels, because they understand that if they are able to get on the weak shoulder of the box, able to open up the game, there's gaping holes in our defensive structure. Question mark. What is happening with the Boxers' defensive structure?
Ash, I just want to come in here. I think we caught between this thing about the way the Lions play and the way we played in the old days. I think rugby is still the same. You need to be a test player. If you're a fly-off, if you're the kicker, you need to be able to kick the ball over. If you play a game, you need to be able to drive, you need to be able to go into the vacuum, and you need to play to the wide channels. John will come in here. The thing is, we need to get our guys to make good decisions on the day. You must be able to play everything. If there's 14 guys in the line in front of you, then there's space in behind, then you kick in behind. If they've got 4 guys back, then you attack the outsides thing. So we mustn't talk about this Lions type of play and the old type. I think it's easy. We must get players that can make decisions, and then they must have the skills to be able to run straight and to pass and to put people into space.
But Victor, if you take, that's what we expect at national level in any case. If you get selected, you can play whatever is in front of you, and that's what we really don't see. And the thing is, you know, if Elton is creating space, but the ball is not going through the midfield, for argument's sake, then it's going to be chaos, because that's the problem. We're talking about defence. We ask questions about the defence. You know what I don't understand? Seriously, what I don't understand. You know, for me, the national side is priority number 1. The best coaches should be involved with the national side. If we lose,
I'm going to ask you to hold that thought. I'm going to ask you to hold that thought, because I want to have the coaching conversation separately. Before we quickly do, Ashford, very quickly, we want to hear from the guys at in Salta, but I really want to dig a little deeper into the whole coaching question. But Ashi?
Just to Victor's point, I think, you know, this notion of Lions rugby, you know, for me, I say the Lions as a team, wonderful brand of rugby. Yes, a union that have played together with a bunch of players. Victor, you remember when you guys at the Bulls, for years you were together and you developed a structure, a way of playing where everyone was able over time to develop into that system. When you're at the national level, I don't think that same luxury exists where you can have the same time with the players in order to get them all to play into something. But if we look at rugby and how rugby has evolved, I think that question asks for how are we able to play on our feet? How are we able to put players into space? Because the power game is gone. You look at the weight of the two packs. There's no mentionable difference between the two packs. You look at the size of the players. The Argentine backs are smaller than the Springbok backs. Yet every time we have to turn around because they just carved a hole through our defence. So the rugby has evolved. So much so that if you look at the box, why is it that we are vulnerable, John, when it comes to the ruck time? And I'll tell you why. We can go back and look at this. Every time when we get the ball and we are vulnerable at ruck, it's when we receive the ball on the back foot. We don't have the forward momentum. And then we find that we run into 2-3 players, and all of a sudden they come, they steal, they stop our momentum, they steal the ball at the ruck. That's something where also the players getting into position, making sure they understand how to get into the right place, to receive the ball on the front foot and dominate that collision area.
Yep. I don't know, X, if you want to go to commentary. I know you've been waiting there.
You've been cutting everybody, so just go on.
So let me keep
There's
cutting
so much
everybody
to say,
because
so
there
X,
is...
I'm going to throw it to you. You go.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll catch that. Thank you, Jean. But we will come back, and we do desperately need to speak about the coaching issue. But let's quickly go back to Salta to hear from Owen Gwani, and Robbie Kempson is with them. Ashton talking about the evolution of rugby. Are we seeing the de-evolution of Springbok rugby? I wonder. Let's go to the guys and hear what they have to say.
A great day for Argentine rugby as they secure their second victory against the Springboks. Well, not so great for the Boks. Robbie Kempson, where did it all go wrong?
Yeah, I just think that first half, a little bit laissez-faire about, particularly the set pieces. The line-outs very slow to set. The scrum's not really getting any dominance. The breakdown area dominated completely by Argentina. And I think second half they did the right idea, a ball-in-hand approach. And then sort of in the last 50 minutes when you expected South Africa to take the impetus forward with that ball in hand, then they started the kicking game once again. So I think that's perhaps where they lost it. And that's when the Argentines came back into the game. And listen, they were brave. They were courageous. The crowd got behind them in the last 5 minutes. And their scrum held up fantastically against what is a strong South African outfit right at the end there. So, you've got to give it to them. The Argentines did exceptionally well, but for South Africa, there's going to be a lot of hard work.
Talk about hard work. Next game in the Rugby Championship is against Australia in Brisbane. What is it that this group of players and the Alistair Coetzee or the coaching staff need to work on for the next game in the Rugby Championship?
I don't think there's much to panic about right now. I think it's important that they keep the same structures in place. Maybe one or two personal changes which will come in for that game. I think, the massive, from the bench and the play, the guys have played off the bench. Some of them perhaps deserve a start. My guy like Malcolm Marx probably deserves to come into the mix. So they're going to have to start adapting a few of those positions.
You saying Malcolm Marx ahead of Adrian Strauss?
It's going to be a tough call, but sometimes these things have to be made. If we're going to take the next step forward, we're going to have to decide who's our captain going forward. I'm talking about long term. If it's Adrian Strauss, yes, stick with him. But, we're keeping a guy like Malcolm Marx.
You've just opened up a can of worms here. What has a guy like Mbonambi done wrong not to get a start and Malcolm Marx leapfrogs him?
No, I would think Bonami deserves his start. He's an exceptional trainer, but he doesn't get on the field. So it's not real game time that he's had in the test match that we had. And Malcolm Marx has had none. But these are players that have really played Super Rugby at the top level, at pace. And that's the type of thing we need in our game at the moment.
Well, some harsh words and interesting opinion from Robbie Kempson, who easily just looking maybe for another captain, another hooker. But just had a tough day for the Springboks. Maybe they kicked too much. The Springboks of old, that's what we saw in the first 40 minutes when they kept ball in hand a lot better in the second half. Well, back to the drawing board, not only for us, but for Alistair Coetzee.
Right, well, speaking about the captaincy and the coaching, we are reaching fast the end of the show, so we're not going to have too much time to reflect on especially those two issues, and maybe over the course of next week on the magazine shows is when we'll delve a little deeper into this conversation. Coaching, Vic. Where's the problem? Where's the blockage? I'm not going to bring Nick in here because he's fuming. He's seething.
I'm a coach as well. Yeah, it's difficult to say. I think we're not there. We don't see what they do behind the scenes. But what we need to do is we need to get a picture of how we want to play the game. We need to go out and we need to execute. Whatever we decide on, we have to go out there and we need to do it. We can't go half one way, half other way. But again, like I said, I think you need to be able to play everything. If you're a Springbok, you need to play a physical game.
Do we have the expertise? Do we have the expertise?
If I can just come in there, you are 100% correct, because if you look at the way the Hurricanes won they won Super Rugby this year, they beat the Lions in pouring rain and in wet, drizzly conditions, and Barrett's kicking game was absolutely outstanding. Their forwards' defence was exceptional. They played a lot of pick and goes. They managed to get front foot ball and they kicked the ball into the corners, and the Lions never got any territory. So the All Blacks, or the All Black teams, or the various Super Rugby teams, can play wet weather rugby. They can play dry weather rugby, as we well know. When they have a dry ball, they hold on to it and they put pressure on by keeping possession. We are well behind in terms of our skill set. Yeah. And we're well behind in terms of our coaching all the way through the levels to get our players to the level where they take the right decisions on the field. It's when you get to the Springbok level, you can't start coaching a person to pass properly off his left hand and to run straight. That should have been done when the guy was 17 or even younger at school. And the big difference in New Zealand, the coaching is done from a very young age. So that's why every single player who's in their Super Rugby franchises does the right thing at the right time. And when a player like Leonard Brown comes onto the field for the first test, he looks as though he's been there all his life. That's where we are way, way behind the All Blacks.
Right. Well, how far behind are we? Let's take a look at the logs. This will tell you. It'll tell you that there's absolutely no chance of the Springboks now catching the All Blacks. So at least I expect there to be no chance insofar as the championship goes. 2 bonus point wins for them and on 10 points after 2 rounds. We are in second spot, and that's by virtue of having a better points difference to the Argentines from last week's win. And, of course, Australia still to record a win. And I reckon, Ashwin, we are going to be just a little bit scared at the prospect of facing Australia away from home.
Well, you know, I think as Springbok Rugby, I think that, you know, we're a proud nation when it comes to our rugby team. I think the players in itself. But, you know, for me, the whole question about whether or not we have the skills, John, and I know, but perhaps you can also come in here. Today I saw that Francois Lowe gave a backhanded pass to Brian Abana in a meter space. Last week I saw Lua de Jager playing at number 10, first receiver, making the right pass at the right time to the supporting player. These are forwards running like that. So for me, I think from what I've seen that we do have the skills. I think you know, there's a lot to be said about how we've played in the past 2 weeks. I think there's intent. Today, we didn't see that coming off. So I'm not sure from your perspective, what do you think, if it's really the case?
Yeah, look, I mentioned it on the build-up as well, in that I think we do have the skills. I think, though, that we need to have a much broader look at the structures within South African rugby. You know, look at your school structures, your coaching at schoolboy level, look at your skill level at school or schoolboy level, look at Super Rugby at the moment, look at Currie Cup. Look at everything and let's make a conscious decision and say, well, are we on the right track or do we need change? And my view is that we do. You know, so when do we make that decision?
Where do we need the change?
I think there's a lot of change to be made. And there's some tough decisions to be made on, you know, from the top down. But that needs to be done. Otherwise, we will find ourselves in a very, very slippery position. And already we've seen over the last 2 years where we've gone from, you know, winning most games to losing to teams that we're not supposed to lose to. So, you know, are we going to make that conscious decision, or will we just say that everything is fine and we will get better? Because it won't. You know, we've seen this before and we've seen it with different sports. And I think those difficult decisions need to be made. We need everyone involved, all the stakeholders, to sit down and say, well, you know, what are we getting out of this? And is this the product that we want to be selling to the public and to the supporters and to the stakeholders? So tough decisions to be made. The question is, will we do that? And I think we're not the people that's going to do that. We'll have to wait and see.
That's not going to happen.
You reckon it's not going to happen, Nas?
No, it's not going to happen. We lose the defensive coach. The next moment, what do you do if you lose a fantastic defensive? You go and find the next best guy. You don't just appoint another guy. And that's what we do.
Well, I think with a really top defensive coach, we wouldn't have found Koch going in on a tackle that he should have stayed on the outside.
Thank you.
Well, confirmation of what's going to happen in 2 weeks' time. On the 10th of September, it's the New Zealanders' chance to take on the Argentines at home, and that's going to be probably a very easy game for New Zealand. That'll be in Hamilton. South Africa plays Australia in Brisbane that weekend. We'll follow up.
Easy game for us.
Easy game for us. I don't know anymore. I'm a little scared, and well, social media has gone absolutely wild at the moment. A lot of opinions have been given, and I suppose it's not going to stop for the next little while, at least until the Boks can return to winning form. But thank you very much, gentlemen. It was incredibly informative. I think there's a lot of food for thought. We'll be talking about it, I'm pretty sure, for the entire of next week, and you can also join in the conversation. Thanks for joining us. It is late. Have a good night.